Man-eating tree can refer to any of the various legendary carnivorous plants large enough to kill and consume a person or other large animal. The Madagascar tree. The earliest well-known report of a man-eating tree originated as a literary fabrication written by Edmund Spenser for the New York World. Spenser's article first appeared in the daily edition of the New York World on 26th of April, 1874, and appeared again in the weekly edition of the newspaper 2 days later. In the article, a letter was published by a purported German explorer named Karl Lecce, also spelled as Karl or Karl Lecce in later accounts, who provided a report of encountering a sacrifice performed by the Makoto tribe of Madagascar. This story was picked up by many other newspapers of the day, which included the South Australian Register of 27 October 1874, where it gained even greater notoriety. Describing the tree, the account related, "The slender delicate palpi, with the fury of starved serpents, quivered a moment over her head. Then, as if instinct with demoniac intelligence fastened upon her in sudden coils round and round her neck and arms. Then while her awful screams and yet more awful laughter rose wildly to be instantly strangled down again into a gurgling moan, the tendrils one after another, like great green serpents, with brutal energy and infernal rapidity, rose, retracted themselves, and wrapped her about in fold after fold, ever tightening, with cruel swiftness and savage tenacity, of anacondas fastening upon their prey." The hoax was given further publicity by Madagascar, Land of the Man-Eating Tree, a book by Chase Osborne, who had been a governor of Michigan. Osborne claimed that both the tribes and missionaries on Madagascar knew about the hideous tree, repeated the above Lecce account, and acknowledged, "I do not know whether this tigerish tree really exists, or whether the blood-curdling stories about it are pure myth. It is enough for my purpose if its story focuses your interest upon one of the least known spots of the world." In his 1955 book, Salamanders and Other Wonders, science author Willy Ley determined that the Makoto tribe, Karl Lecce, and the Madagascar man-eating tree all appeared to be fabrications. The facts are pretty clear by now. Of course the man-eating tree does not exist. There is no such tribe. Yataveo. In J.W. Buell's Sea and Land, 1887, the Yataveo plant is described as being native to Africa and Central America, so named for producing a hissing sound similar to the Spanish phrase "ya te veo," and having poisonous spines that resemble many huge serpents in an angry discussion, occasionally darting from side to side as if striking at an imaginary foe, which sees and perceive any creature coming within reach. The Vampire Vine. William Thomas Stead, editor of Review of Reviews, published a brief article in October 1891 that discussed a story found in Lucifer magazine describing a plant in Nicaragua called by the natives the Devil's Snare. This plant had the capability to drain the blood of any living thing which comes within its death-dealing touch. According to the article, Mr. Dunstan, naturalist, who has recently returned from Central America, where he spent nearly 2 years in the study of the flora and the fauna of the country, relates the finding of a singular growth in one of the swamps which surround the Great Lakes of Nicaragua. He was engaged in hunting for botanical and entomological specimens, when he heard his dog cry out as if in agony from a distance. Running to the spot whence the animal's cries came, Mr. Dunstan found him enveloped in a perfect network of what seemed to be a fine rope-like tissue of roots and fibers. The native servants who accompanied Mr. Dunstan manifested the greatest horror of the vine, which they call the Devil's Snare, and were full of stories of its death-dealing powers. He was able to discover very little about the nature of the plant, owing to the difficulty of handling it, for its grasp can only be torn away with the loss of skin and even of flesh. But, as near as Mr. Dunstan could ascertain, its power of suction is contained in a number of infinitesimal mouths, or little suckers, which, ordinarily closed, open for the reception of food. If the substance is animal, the blood is drawn off, and the carcass or refuse then dropped. An investigation of Stead's Review determined no such article was published in the October issue of Lucifer, and concluded that the story in Review of Reviews appeared to be a fabrication by the editor. The story in fact appeared in the September issue, preceded by a longer version in an 1889 newspaper describing Dunstan as a well-known naturalist from New Orleans. See also Carnivorous Plant, Juboko, Old Man Willow, Puya chilensis, Umtlebi, Upas Tree.